The Broken One. The dust storms of Arcturus 7 screamed across the abandoned mining complex like wounded animals, tearing at the skeletal structures that remained. Jake Morrison pulled his breathing mask tighter as he navigated through the twisted metal corridors, his scanner beeping softly in search of salvageable tech. At 42 years old, he'd spent the last decade picking through the bones of failed colonies, trying to forget what he'd lost. "Nothing here but ghosts," he muttered to himself, his voice muffled by the mask. His scanner suddenly spiked, detecting a heat signature in what had been the medical wing. Jake's hand moved instinctively to the plasma pistol at his hip. Living things in places like this usually meant trouble. Raiders, desperate colonists, or worse. He approached cautiously, his military training never quite forgotten despite the years. What he found made him freeze mid-step. A young woman lay crumpled against a shattered wall, her skin a striking shade of purple that seemed to shimmer even in the dim emergency lighting. Long, dark hair fell across her face, matted with dust and dried blood. She wore torn robes that might have once been ceremonial, but now barely covered her trembling form. Intricate silver markings traced patterns along her exposed shoulders and arms, slowly fading as if losing their power. Jake knelt beside her, his medic instincts taking over. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slowly, revealing irises of deep violet that seemed to hold galaxies of pain. When she saw him, she flinched violently, trying to drag herself away despite her obvious weakness. "No," she whispered, her voice raw and broken. "Just leave me here. I'm defective anyway. Worthless. They said so." The words hit Jake harder than any physical blow. He'd heard similar things before, from soldiers who'd given up hope, from people broken by war and loss. But something about the absolute conviction in her voice, the way she truly believed herself to be garbage, made his jaw tighten with anger. "Nobody's worthless," he said firmly, already pulling emergency medical supplies from his pack. "What's your name?" "Why does it matter?" she asked, but her resistance was fading as hypothermia and dehydration took their toll. "I'm Nyla. Not that the name means anything. The breeding council stripped me of my family designation when I failed." Jake wrapped a thermal blanket around her shivering form, ignoring her weak attempts to push him away. "Well, Nyla, I'm Jake, and right now we're getting you somewhere safe before this storm kills us both." "You don't understand," Nyla said, her voice barely audible. "I can't give you what you want. I'm broken inside. Every male who tried. I don't want anything except to help another human being survive," Jake interrupted gently, lifting her carefully into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, her body fragile from weeks of starvation. As he carried her through the howling storm toward his shelter, Nyla's head fell against his shoulder, exhaustion finally claiming her. For the first time in months, she felt something other than despair bubbling up inside her. This human smelled like machine oil and antiseptic, not like the others who had used her. His arms were strong but gentle, holding her as if she might break, and when she glanced up at his weathered face, she saw something she'd almost forgotten existed: genuine concern. Jake's underground shelter was hidden in a natural cave system, reinforced with salvaged materials and powered by a small fusion generator. As he laid Nyla on his narrow bed and began treating her injuries, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of species would throw away one of their own like broken equipment. "Rest now," he said softly, covering her with warm blankets. "You're safe here." Nyla's eyes filled with tears she thought had dried up long ago. "Why are you being kind to me?" "Because everyone deserves kindness," Jake replied simply, turning to prepare hot broth. "Especially people who've forgotten what it feels like."
Walls of Fear. 5 days had passed since Jake brought Nyla to his shelter, and she was finally starting to look less like a ghost. The purple hue of her skin had deepened to a healthier shade, her silver markings glowing softly again with renewed vitality. She sat wrapped in blankets on the edge of the bed, watching Jake organize medical supplies with the precision of someone who'd done it thousands of times. "Your fever finally broke last night," Jake said without turning around. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Nyla admitted, quietly. "Stronger. But I still don't understand why you're doing this. Men don't help women like me without expecting payment." Jake set down the supply kit and turned to face her, his dark eyes serious, but kind. "What happened to you, Nyla? Who hurt you so badly that you can't accept simple kindness?" Nyla's fingers tightened on the blanket, memories threatening to drown her. "On my world, Valoria, females are tested when we reach maturity. Genetic compatibility screenings, fertility assessments, hormone response evaluations. We are matched with males based on our biological value to the species." Her voice grew smaller, more fragile. "I failed every single test. My body wouldn't respond to the enhancement treatments. The breeding council declared me genetically defective, unsuitable for standard pairing, so they gave me to researchers, males who wanted to experiment, to try different methods to make me fertile." Jake felt his hands curl into fists but kept his voice gentle. "That's not medical research, Nyla. That's torture. For 3 years I endured it. Different males, different techniques, each one growing more frustrated and violent when I couldn't produce the results they wanted. The last one told me I wasn't even worth the nutrients it took to keep me alive. He dumped me in those ruins and left me to die." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush them both. Finally, Jake spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "I lost my entire medical team during a reactor meltdown at Colony Station 12. 17 people under my care. 17 lives I was supposed to protect. I watched them die one by one from radiation poisoning, while I couldn't do a damn thing to save them." Nyla looked up at him in surprise. "But you saved me." "And you survived 3 years of hell," Jake replied, moving to sit across from her. "You're still here, still fighting, still capable of hope even when you try to hide it. That takes more courage than anything I did as a soldier." Something shifted in Nyla's chest, a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the blankets or heated shelter. When Jake looked at her, he didn't see a failed experiment or damaged goods. He saw a person, a survivor. He saw her. "I don't know how to trust anymore," she whispered. "Every time I let my guard down, someone hurt me." Jake nodded slowly, understanding in his weathered face. "Then we take it slow. No pressure, no expectations. Just one day at a time. You help me around here if you want to, or you rest if you need to. Whatever feels right." "Just like that?" Nyla asked, disbelief coloring her voice. "Just like that," Jake confirmed, standing to check the food synthesizer. "Though I have to warn you, my cooking is terrible even with automated help." A sound escaped Nyla that surprised them both, a small laugh, rusty from disuse, but genuine. "Valorians have different nutritional needs, but I understand food chemistry." "See? Already making yourself valuable," Jake said with a slight smile. Then caught himself. "Not that you need to be valuable. I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant," Nyla interrupted softly. Standing on shaky legs, the blanket wrapped around her like a protective cocoon. "Jake, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why do you live out here alone? A skilled medic could work anywhere, make good money at the established colonies." "After the accident, I couldn't be around people anymore. Every time I tried to treat someone, I saw my team dying. So I came out here where the only person I could fail was myself." "You didn't fail them, Jake. And you didn't fail me." Their eyes met, and for a moment neither of them moved. Then Nyla reached out hesitantly, her purple hand hovering near Jake's scarred arm. "May I?" "Yeah," Jake said softly. Her fingers touched his skin gently, exploring the rough texture of old burns. "You carry your scars on the outside," she said quietly. "Mine are hidden, but they're just as real." "Then we're both wounded," Jake replied, covering her hand with his own. "But maybe, together, we can figure out how to heal." Dangerous territory. 3 weeks had transformed Nyla from a broken shell into someone Jake barely recognized. She moved with growing confidence around the shelter, her purple skin now vibrant and healthy, the silver markings along her arms pulsing with soft light when she concentrated on repairs. She had proven herself invaluable with technical work, her alien perspective solving problems Jake had struggled with for months. "We're running critically low on protein supplements and antiseptic compounds," Jake said, checking their inventory screen. "There's a trading outpost about 80 kilometers north, a 2-day journey through some dangerous terrain." Nyla looked up from the communication array she'd been rewiring. "I should come with you. I know how to navigate the radiation valleys from my time surviving in the ruins, and 2 people can carry more supplies than 1. Jake hesitated. The thought of taking her into the open wasteland felt risky, but leaving her alone felt worse. "Are you sure you're ready for that kind of exposure? The storms out there are brutal." "I'm stronger than I look," Nyla replied, standing and stretching her arms above her head. The movement caused her makeshift tunic to ride up slightly, revealing the curve of her waist. Jake found his gaze lingering before he forced himself to look away. "Besides, you've been preparing me for this, teaching me survival skills. It's time I proved I'm not a liability." "You are never a liability," Jake said quietly, but he nodded. "All right, we leave at first light. Pack light, but bring cold weather gear." They set out as the twin suns of Arcturus 7 painted the horizon in shades of orange and purple. Nyla proved to be an excellent traveling companion, her alien senses detecting unstable ground and radiation pockets before Jake's scanner could register them. As they walked through the broken landscape, they talked more openly than ever before. "What do you miss most about Earth?" Nyla asked as they navigated around a massive crater. "Coffee," Jake said with a slight smile. "Real coffee, not this synthetic stuff. And rain, gentle rain instead of these acid storms. What about you? What do you miss about Valoria?" Nyla was quiet for a moment. "The crystal gardens where I played as a child, before the testing, before everything changed. The way the triple moons would make the flowers glow at night. I miss who I was before they told me I was broken." Jake stopped walking and turned to face her. "You're not broken, Nyla. They were." The intensity in his eyes made Nyla's breath catch. She'd grown accustomed to his kindness, but this felt different, deeper. "Jake, incoming!" Jake suddenly shouted, pulling her down behind a rocky outcrop. 3 sleek aircraft descended from the clouds, their hulls bearing the distinctive crescent symbol of the Valorian Colonial Authority. Nyla's entire body went rigid with terror as armed figures emerged, clearly searching the area with scanning equipment. "They're looking for me," she whispered, panic making her voice shake. "They must have detected my biosignature. Jake, you have to leave me here. If they find you with me—" "Not happening," Jake said firmly, his arm wrapping protectively around her as they pressed deeper into their hiding spot. The search party moved closer, so close that Nyla could hear their voices calling out in her native language, demanding that any defective specimens reveal themselves for reclamation. Jake's arm tightened around her, and she buried her face against his chest, breathing in his scent to calm her racing heart. Minutes felt like hours before the aircraft finally departed, their search moving to another sector. Even after the sound of engines faded, neither Jake or Nyla moved. The close proximity in their hiding spot had made them acutely aware of each other, the way their bodies fit together, the warmth they shared. "Thank you," Nyla whispered against his chest, "for not giving me up." Jake's hand moved to cup her face gently, tilting it up so their eyes met. "I would never do that. You understand me? Never." "Why?" Nyla asked. Though she thought she knew the answer. "Why do you care so much about someone like me?" "Because somewhere along the way you stopped being just someone I rescued. You became someone I—" He stopped himself, but Nyla finished the thought. "Someone you care about?" "Yeah, someone I care about very much." Nyla's hand came up to cup his, her purple fingers intertwining with his human ones. "I care about you too, Jake, more than I thought I could ever care about anyone again. You've shown me that I'm not worthless, that I can be valued just for being myself." The distance between them closed gradually, carefully, giving either of them time to pull away. When their lips finally met, it was gentle and tentative, a question more than a demand. Nyla's eyes drifted closed as she leaned into the kiss, feeling safe and wanted for the first time in years. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing heavily, Jake rested his forehead against hers. "We should keep moving, find shelter before dark." "Jake," Nyla said softly, "when we find shelter tonight, I don't want separate sleeping areas anymore." His eyes searched hers, making sure she meant it. "Are you certain? After everything you've been through, I don't want you to feel pressured." "I'm certain," Nyla interrupted, her voice steady and sure. "You've given me time to heal, shown me what real affection looks like. I trust you, and I want this. I want you." Jake kissed her forehead gently. "Then we better find that shelter quickly." They continued their journey with renewed purpose, hands linked together as they navigated the wasteland. By nightfall, they reached an abandoned research station, its basic systems still functional. As they sealed themselves inside, and Jake activated the heating unit, the reality of what they'd admitted to each other hung in the air between them.
Hunted. The abandoned research station hummed with dormant power as Jake secured the entrance. Nyla stood by the observation window, watching the darkness outside for any sign of pursuit. Her silver markings glowed brighter now, pulsing with an energy she'd never felt before. "We're safe for tonight," Jake said, coming up behind her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "The station's shielding will hide our signatures." Nyla turned to face him, her violet eyes reflecting the soft emergency lighting. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about caring for me." "Every word was true," Jake replied, his hand moving to cup her face. "Then show me," Nyla whispered, her hands sliding up his chest. "Show me what it's like when someone actually wants me, not what I can give them, just me." Jake's kiss was deeper this time, more urgent, but still gentle, mindful of her past trauma. Nyla responded with growing confidence, her body pressed against his as years of fear began melting away. They moved together toward the station's crew quarters, shedding layers of clothing and emotional armor with equal care. "Tell me if you want to stop," Jake murmured against her neck. "At any point, just say the word." "Don't stop," Nyla breathed, her purple skin flushed darker with desire. "Please don't stop." Their lovemaking was tender and passionate, a stark contrast to everything Nyla had endured before. Jake worshipped her body with gentle touches and whispered affirmations, showing her that intimacy could be about connection and mutual pleasure, not pain and exploitation. When Nyla finally shattered in his arms, it was with tears of joy rather than sorrow. Later, as they lay tangled together in the narrow bunk, Nyla traced patterns on Jake's chest. "I never knew it could be like this," she said softly. "I thought I was incapable of feeling pleasure, but I wasn't broken. They were just hurting me." Jake kissed her forehead. "You were never the problem, Nyla. You're perfect exactly as you are." A sudden alarm shattered the moment. Red lights flooded the station as proximity sensors detected incoming vessels. Jake jumped up, pulling on his clothes. "They've found us. We need to move now." Nyla dressed quickly, her newfound confidence evident in her movements. "The eastern exit leads to the canyon systems. If we can reach them—" "Then we have a chance," Jake finished, grabbing their supplies. They burst from the station just as Valorian soldiers breached the main entrance. Plasma fire lit up the night as they ran. Nyla's knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable, guiding them through narrow passages that the larger pursuit vehicles couldn't follow. But the soldiers on foot were gaining. "Jake, left!" Nyla shouted. A plasma bolt struck the rocks above them, sending debris raining down. Jake stumbled, his ankle twisting painfully. Nyla immediately turned back, supporting his weight as they continued running. "Leave me," Jake gasped. "You can move faster alone." "Not a chance," Nyla said fiercely. "You didn't abandon me. I won't abandon you." They reached a narrow cave entrance just as the soldiers closed in. Nyla pulled Jake inside, then turned to face their pursuers. Something inside her awakened, a power she'd never accessed before. Her silver markings blazed with brilliant light as she thrust her hands forward. A wave of psychic energy erupted from her, sending the soldiers flying backward. Jake stared in amazement. "Nyla, what?" "I don't know," she said, equally shocked. "I've never been able to do that before." They didn't wait to find out if more soldiers were coming. Deeper into the cave systems they went, Nyla's new abilities lighting their way. After hours of navigating the underground passages, they emerged near Jake's hidden landing site, a small scout ship he'd kept maintained for emergencies. "Can you fly this?" Nyla asked. "Well enough to get us off this rock. Where do you want to go?" Nyla looked back at the planet that had brought them together, then at Jake, the man who'd shown her she had value. "Anywhere as long as we're together." Worth everything. 6 months had passed since Jake and Nyla escaped Arcturus 7. They'd found refuge on Meridian Station, a frontier outpost that asked few questions and offered second chances. Jake had opened a small clinic while Nyla worked as a technical specialist, her newly discovered psychic abilities making her invaluable for complex repairs. "Dr. Morrison, you have another patient," the clinic AI announced. Jake looked up from his work to see Nyla entering, her purple skin glowing with health, wearing practical work clothes that she had chosen herself. "I'm not sick," she said with a smile. "I just wanted to see you." "Best kind of patient," Jake replied, pulling her into his arms. "How is the reactor calibration?" "Finished early, which means we have the evening free. I was thinking we could finally try that restaurant you mentioned." Before Jake could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. "Valorian Colonial Authority vessel requesting docking permission. They're demanding the return of defective specimen Nyla, designation revoked." Nyla's body tensed, the old fear threatening to return, but Jake held her tighter. "They can't have you. You're a free citizen of Meridian Station now, protected by frontier law." "They won't care about frontier law," Nyla said quietly. "Then we make them care," a new voice said. Commander Helena Vasquez, the station's security chief, entered the clinic. "I've been monitoring their transmissions. They're claiming you're stolen property, Dr. Morrison, not a sentient being with rights." "That's insane," Jake said angrily. "It's also illegal under galactic convention. If you're willing to testify about what they did to you, Nyla, we can file charges against the Valorian Breeding Council for crimes against sentient beings." Nyla looked between Jake and Helena, then squared her shoulders. "I'll do it. I'll tell everyone what they did, not just to me, but to countless others. Maybe I can stop them from hurting anyone else." The confrontation took place in Meridian's central hub. Valorian officials in their ceremonial robes faced Nyla across a mediation table, their expressions ranging from dismissive to outraged. Jake stood beside her, his hand firmly clasped in hers. "This specimen was genetically defective," the lead official stated coldly. "Our tests were conclusive. She has no reproductive value." "I'm not a specimen," Nyla said clearly, her voice steady. "And your tests measured only one narrow definition of value. I've discovered I have psychic abilities that none of your so-called perfect specimens possess, abilities that only emerged when I was free from your torture." She raised her free hand, her silver markings blazing as she lifted a heavy table with her mind. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even the Valorian officials looked shocked. "Perhaps your tests were flawed," Commander Vasquez said pointedly. "Perhaps you've been discarding individuals with rare gifts because they didn't fit your narrow criteria. The Galactic Council will be very interested in investigating your breeding program." The officials conferred in hushed tones. Finally, the lead official spoke. "We will drop our claim on this individual. However, we maintain that our methods are sound." "Maintain whatever you want," Nyla said, standing tall. "But I'm never coming back, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you do to those you deem defective." After the Valorians departed, Jake pulled Nyla into a tight embrace. "You were amazing!" "I was terrified, but I wasn't alone. That made all the difference." Over the following months, Nyla's testimony sparked an investigation that exposed the Valorian breeding program's abuses. Other survivors came forward, and reforms began. But for Nyla and Jake, the most important change was personal. They'd moved into a larger quarters together, decorated with plants from a dozen worlds and filled with the warmth of a real home. One evening, as they sat together watching the station's artificial sunset, Nyla curled against Jake's side. "Do you ever regret finding me in those ruins? Your life was simpler before." Jake turned to face her, his hand caressing her cheek. "My life was empty before. You gave me purpose again, reminded me why I became a doctor in the first place, to heal people, to give them hope." "You gave me more than hope," Nyla said softly. "You gave me back myself. You showed me I was worth loving." "You are always worth it," Jake replied, kissing her gently. "Take me to bed," she whispered against his lips. "I want to show you how much I love you." Their lovemaking had evolved over the months, growing more passionate and playful as Nyla's confidence bloomed. She had learned to express her desires freely, to take pleasure without shame. In Jake's arms, she was completely free. Later, as they laid together in comfortable silence, Nyla's head resting on Jake's chest, she spoke quietly. "We're helping others like me now, the ones they throw away, giving them medical care and job training." "We're building something good," Jake agreed, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her purple skin. "I never thought I'd be happy again, never thought I'd feel safe or loved or valued, but you showed me I was wrong about myself." Jake tilted her face up to meet his eyes. "And you showed me that redemption is possible, that past failures don't define us. We saved each other, Nyla."
Cast aside as useless, Nyla murmured with a slight smile on her lips, until a human showed me what love is. Until an extraordinary woman showed me life was worth living again, Jay corrected, pulling her closer. As they drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, both knew they'd found something precious in the wasteland. Not just love, but proof that worth isn't measured by what others think you should be, but who you choose to become. Together, they were whole. Together, they were home.